And it's interesting. I recently learned from my rabbi that in Hebrew, the word for a challenge and the word for a miracle share the same root word, which is nes. And that's because when life throws you challenges, it brings out miraculous things in us.
Hi, this is Paul Rosenberg, and welcome to the Rogue Leadership channel. Today we have another of our series of innovators and influencers where we have in-depth conversations with people who are literally transforming our world. Today our guest is Ethan Zohn, a veritable Renaissance man, soccer player, philanthropist, author, founder of Grassroots Soccer, which we'll talk about, cancer survivor, leadership coach. The list goes on and on. So I think we're going to have a very good, in-depth conversation, and looking forward to it. So Ethan, welcome, and thanks for making the time to join us.
Oh, thank you for having me. That was quite an introduction. I feel like I have nothing left to say about myself, so I appreciate
that. You're welcome. Let's start off with a point in your life where some of the viewers may not know, but you won a season of Survivor. I think it was the third season, if I'm correct. And when you won Survivor and all that media attention, you made a decision to start a different path. So take us through winning that and what you decided to do with that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so if everyone jumps in their little time machine and goes all the way back to 2002, when I was on the reality television show Survivor Africa, that was the show I won. And part of the benefits of winning a show like Survivor is you win some money. So I won $1 million on the show Survivor. And then I decided to use that money to help co-found a charity called Grassroots Soccer. And we're an adolescent health organization that's using the power of soccer to educate, inspire, and mobilize communities to make healthier choices in life. And the reason I kind of chose to get involved with that stems back from when I was playing professional soccer. So I was playing professional soccer before the TV show Survivor, and I was playing in Zimbabwe. And while I was there, I witnessed firsthand what was happening with HIV and AIDS and how it was just destroying this community that I was now a part of. You know, I had friends that were getting sick, kicked off the team, ostracized from society, and ended up living the end of their life in a really lonely, horrible way. So after I got off the show Survivor and I had a little bit of money in my pocket and I had 15 minutes of fame, which was up 10 years ago, I met up with some of my soccer buddies, guys that I had played with in Zimbabwe, here in the United States, and we came together with the guidance of this guy named Dr. Tommy Kark, and we started Grassroots Soccer.
Just a great inspirational story. Tell us a little bit more about Grassroots Soccer and the impact it's had on communities that you're working with.
Sure. You know, one of the things that which is very interesting in this the global health perspective, is that in Africa, adolescents are going to have the highest population of any age bracket in the region. And because of that, we really wanted to focus on adolescents. So we feel that by kind of educating these adolescent young boys and girls on making healthier decisions in life, we can really kind of turn the tide against HIV and AIDS, and obviously help some other health issues in the region. And the way we work at Grassroots Soccer is we train professional soccer players, professional coaches, and peer leaders in the community about, adolescent health with a curriculum that we developed. And then we send them into the classrooms or the soccer fields or the churches or the temples to deliver these health interventions. And I mean, in Africa, soccer is the most popular sport. Like, every little kid wants to grow up to be a soccer player. So we send these players and these leaders into these classrooms, and the kids, I mean, their eyes pop open, their jaws drop, and we end up changing their behaviors so they can make some smart choices. And since inception, we've raised about $80 million. We've graduated 2.2 million kids in over 50 countries.
Grassroots Soccer is doing amazing work. So please, viewers, check it out after you're done watching this episode. Get involved. They're having a significant impact on the communities that they're working with. So Ethan, let's move on to part of your unique journey. And let's talk a little bit about the challenges and the struggle you had with cancer as a two-time survivor. Take us through that, and most importantly, for people who may be going through the same thing, is what did you learn from that? I think all of us, whether we're healthy or not healthy, wherever we are, there are things we can learn from that story.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty ironic that a cancer survivor on the reality TV show Survivor. So that was a lot of fun kind of talking to people about that. But yeah, in 2009, 35 years old, on top of the world, happy, healthy, young guy. And I had some really itchy skin, and I didn't know what was going on inside my body. I tried every pill, every cream, every potion, lotion known to man. And it wasn't until a swollen lymph node popped out of my neck, and they found a 6 centimeter by 12 centimeter mass in my chest. And I was diagnosed with a rare form of blood cancer called CD20 positive Hodgkin's lymphoma. So I hadn't heard of it either, so I don't expect anyone to have. But yeah, I went through, multiple rounds of chemotherapy, 22 blasts of radiation. I had an autologous stem cell transplant, which was great because the doctors thought that got the disease into remission for a while. It returned 20 months later. And getting the news that the cancer returned was absolutely deflating, exponentially more difficult than the first time around. Cause I was scared, I was pissed off, I was frustrated, I was running out of options. Obviously I didn't want to die. And, as a patient, it's hard to explain to people what it really feels like to be seriously ill. Everyone says has a positive outlook, you're like, yeah, all right. But when the multiple doctors try multiple ways of healing you that don't work, you freak out, you panic. And lucky for me, at that exact moment of time, this new drug emerged on the market and was available for a select group of people like me in my exact situation. So I went on this drug. It was called a smart targeted therapy. I don't really know what they put in it. What I do know is that it's pretty freaking smart because it got the disease into remission. I was able to go on to get my second stem cell transplant, this time using my brother, Lee, as the donor. So that was really exciting. But, going through this process as a young adult, forced me to press the pause button on my life when all my other friends were just starting theirs. And, young adults facing cancer, it's a whole different dilemma. As a pediatrics, you got your parents taking care of you, you're young, everything's all okay. If you're an older adult, maybe you're married, you're in a relationship, you got insurance, job, all that settled. But as a young adult, surviving cancer, and then I have the rest of my life to live, and you're thinking about health insurance, job, who the hell's going to want to marry me? Can I have kids? Do I want to get married? Is insurance, all this stuff is going through your mind as a young adult, which just is a really hard to navigate. And so for me, it was a tough time in my life, but I truly believe one of the reasons I was able to kind of do well, I guess, is literally the community around me. The community around me, they reached out, they supported me, they reinforced my values in a time when I felt like I was completely alone. My family, my teammates, friends from Survivor, from all over the world were kind of rooting for me to get healthy, which, I don't know. It helped in a way, knowing that I wasn't alone in this battle. Knowing you're not alone when facing a life challenge is really comforting. And so that's kind of what was happening with cancer for me. And now, I really, in the mid, one of my sayings in life these days, I guess, is never let a crisis go to waste, because it's an opportunity to do some really important things. So for me, even in the middle of my nightmare of cancer, I really wanted to share my story. I went public, I guess you can say. I did articles and magazines and blogs and marathons, cyclothons, to share my story, to help, maybe the details of my life can help someone else out there. And so focusing on the plight of other human beings, helps you heal as a human. So that was a thing that I did. I tried to help others even in the middle of my own crazy nightmare. And I think that kind of helped me a little bit as well to distract from the reality of my situation.
So, Ethan, thank you so much for your honesty and candidness about your challenges and your health struggles. And I know it's not easy to talk about it, but I love what you said about not letting a crisis go to waste. And I think that's wonderful advice for all of us as we face challenges in this journey we call life, and to be able to find something good out of that is just honestly inspirational. And I know that it's kind of changed your mindset. So let's fast forward. You're healthy, you're doing well, you're married, life is good. Talk a little bit about why you decided to go into the leadership space and become a coach. And I know you're a motivational speaker as well. Talk a little bit about that decision once your health got back to a good state.
Yeah, I think, I'm in a really lucky and interesting position. My whole life up until like the point with cancer, I was helping others, helping communities get over their crisis, giving charity. And then like all of a sudden, the tables were turned, and I went from, the giving of charity to the receiving of charity. So to be in a position where I could see both sides of this situation really made me take a good hard look at who I was and like who I wanted to become. And I wanted to be the type of guy who was, out there kind of helping others and kind of leading the way, and kind of being a good example for other people on how to, be a successful leader in the kind of a crazy world that we're living in right now. And so, part of what I do is I do a lot of public speaking, motivational speaking about, leadership and relationship building, overcoming challenges. And it's interesting. I recently learned from my rabbi that in Hebrew, the word for a challenge and the word for a miracle share the same root word, which is nes. And that's because when like life throws you challenges, like it brings out miraculous things in us. And these like challenges aren't supposed to beat us down, but rather like the opposite. They're to build us up, they empower us to be able to go out there and make a difference as an individual and then as a community. And so like I really, I believe in that like one person does have the ability to help others out there to change the world. You don't have to win a reality TV show. You don't have to have all these fancy titles and tons of money to be a successful leader to change the world. Each and every one of us can start doing these things in our local community, to start making a difference. And so if I can kind of share that message and share a little message of hope and inspiration to some people out there, maybe we can kind of create this little mini revolution of consciousness for everyone out there to try to kind of be kind of active members of the community.
Super. I really like the idea of each of us can have an impact, that it doesn't have to be the big splash on the world stage, that every day we have opportunities within our own communities to help move us forward in terms of our consciousness, the way we treat each other, how we execute our business every day, all that stuff. So you're talking to a lot of leaders. What obstacles or what traps do you see them kind of get themselves into? I've done a lot of work in terms of that mindset. What are you seeing out there that with your clients that they're kind of wrestling with and looking for a way to push through to a better way forward?
Yeah. And I've looked over kind of some of the skills that I used to win the TV show Survivor, and the skills that I used to get over cancer that I'm using in my life today, that I feel have kind of helped me kind of, I don't, not be successful, but, manage the life that I'm living. And some of those skills that I found were helpful to me, something like being selfless in like a really selfish world that we live in, being a teacher, being a leader, being a member of the community. And those are some of the things that I try to, project on other people and help them evaluate in their own life. Like, how are you using those skills in your life to make yourself better and those around you better? Well, one of the things that I've really been focusing on recently is just the simple concept of being kind and being likable. like, I think being a likable person and a likable leader is really understated. It all goes back to that. Like, Survivor is a game of relationships. Life is a game of relationships. CEO corporates is a game of relationships. It's how you work with other people, how you interact with the other people that determine how well and how far you're going to go in this game that we're playing, this game of life. And I truly believe that being likable is one of the most important foundations of being a good leader. As we've seen in the world today, there are some great leaders that may not be as likable, and I don't think they're as successful out there. I mean, if you're looking at what's happening politically right now, you have a leader that's not super likable right now to some people, compared to some other former leaders that we've had in this country. So I think that's really interesting, and that's something I've been focusing on.
Thank you for that. So it really is about, you said something really important to me, and it's about the ability to connect. And I think if you are kind, if you are selfless, if you are accessible, that makes those connections easier. And you also said something previously which really struck a chord with me, which is that, what resonated with me about what you talked about is, taking that action, moving, even if it's a little step that you can do, moving forward, create those relationships, which become then a community, which becomes, in my view, when you have that community, you can do some great things in terms of the impact in the future. So again, keywords for me: connection and relationships, and focusing on those things, I think will help us all be better in our journey, right?
Definitely. And I had an experience on the show Survivor, where, I use that term, like, be a teacher. That's just one of my things, like, be a teacher to other people. And there was an experience I had on Survivor where I was on the tribe with this guy named Big Tom Buchanan. And Tom had never met a Jewish person before, and I'm Jewish, and I had never met anyone who's never really met a Jewish person before. And so he had some questions and thoughts and theories and maybe some stigma and prejudice towards Jews. So at that moment, I needed to work with this guy named Tom if I want to get further in the game and if we want to win challenges, which is kind of this end goal of the game Survivor. And so I thought about the quote from Abraham Lincoln. He said, "I do not like that man, therefore I must get to know him better." So I didn't really like Tom at this moment, but I felt if I got to know him better, we could figure out a more constructive way to work together. I think getting to know someone, it gives you a bridge to understanding. It gives you empathy. It gives you a better understanding of where this person came from and why they may be acting in a certain way. So I think if we each take time to get to know the others, like if you're having a crisis, a relationship crisis with a coworker or a business partner or a client, like, take the time to get to know them, learn about them, and then you can kind of try to find this common ground to work together, to achieve these common goals.
Excellent. Seek that common ground. So a couple more questions. I know you're busy and we'll let you go. So I ask all my guests this question just because I want to ask it. When you were little, like about 6 or 7 years old, what did you want to be? Like, what was your vision for your life?
Ooh. I wanted to be a professional soccer player. That's what I wanted to do when I was young. It's just funny enough. I wanted to be an inventor. One of my idols was like Henry Ford, which is weird. And then also like professional soccer players. So that was kind of where I was sitting back in the day.
Well, you got half of half of the dream done, right?
No, I got both the dreams done. If I actually invented a cereal bowl where that are you sick and tired of soggy cereal? Well, I'm going to revolutionize the cereal eating experience in one big scoop. So if you imagine a cereal bowl, my cereal bowl's got a shallow end and it's got a deep end. You put your cereal up top, you put your milk down below, and you want a little crunch, you just tap it over the edge. So now I invented this, and I became a professional soccer player. So like, it's only downhill from here.
Who knew? Who knew? Hey, operators are standing by. We'll throw in 2 of those bowls. Call now in the next 5 minutes. Thanks very much. All right. That's awesome. I had no idea. So I'd like to ask you, for the viewers out there, what are your keys if, our listeners and viewers for the leaders out there who want to be transformative, who want to have that impact, what are the qualities or what advice would you give them to make sure that when they lead, they are having the impact that they want?
Interesting question. I can take two different approaches to this. If I'm looking at, if I take an example from like grassroots soccer in terms of leading the way in terms of adolescent health, we took a really scientific approach to that. So we are completely run by like data and analytics and monitoring and evaluation. So like we can understand, we can prove that the work that we're doing is really making a difference based on our data and these monitoring and evaluation programs that we have implemented into our grassroots soccer program. So scientifically, that's great, like just proof there. But like, where as a human being, are you able to make a difference? And for me, it still just comes back to like relationships. I keep going there, but it's your interactions with the people. I've been fortunate to have, been on stages where a lot of people are there and you're giving these speeches and you don't really know if you're doing anything or if it's like sinking in, like, college kids, they're on their phone, or CEOs that are forced to be there, continuing education credits, like you never really know. So like, I always kind of really focus on the individual as well. Like, I'll take time to sit down with these people, hear their thoughts, give them my comments. It takes time, but I feel that those personal interactions for me has been really transformative for myself and transformative for the person that I'm working with. So I guess I would say, just, actually, I don't know what I would say to that. Just it's easier for me to work with individuals, one-on-one to help kind of guide them in their leadership. So I don't know if that answered your question.
No, that makes perfect sense to me, that it really is about what each relationship, each individual, and take that time, even if it's 5 minutes, to do that versus the age we live in where it's massive emails and multiple phone calls. Take the time. You get more out of that 5 minutes with that one person than you will doing anything else. So I appreciate that. The last question for you. Where can people get in touch with you? Your website? How can they get a hold of you and carry on the dialogue with you?
Sure. I'm very accessible through all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. My personal website is ezon.com, grassrootssoccer.org, so you can hit me up any of those places if you want to get in touch, and I'd be happy to connect with you.
Super. Ethan, it's been a pleasure, a delight. We had some fun too, as I knew we would. I appreciate your wisdom, your energy, and your contributions today to the series. And thanks again for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. And say hi to your brother for me.
Will do.
And people don't know that your brother, David Rosenberg, who looks very similar to you, co-authored 3 children's books with me called Soccer World. So we traveled the world, seeing the world through the eyes of a soccer player, and your brother helped me write that. So I'm really, really proud of that moment as well.
Yeah, as he is too. So, I know you guys go back a ways, and it's great to finally, for you and I to meet face to face. That's my twin brother, David. Most of you know that I've got a twin watching the channel. So thanks again, folks. Please leave your comments down below. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.